is a story of a land, of a people, where communication has been our song, our drumbeat. We sing with hearts full of joy. We dream of a better future, one that is upon us now. This is who we are. We are close to the heart of the world. We are as old as time. The soul of man began with us. We are Africa.
Welcome back. Hundreds of demonstrators, majority of them from civil society groups, have demonstrated in front of the UN peacekeeping headquarters in Congo's Bukavu region. The demonstrators are angered by what they say is a lack of serious action by UN troops to deal with the M23 rebels who have taken positions at the gates of the town of Goma. Meanwhile, top M23 political figures say their target is the seat of government in Kinshasa. We have details in this report.
At Bukavu in eastern RD Congo, people demonstrate calling for protection by the United Nations. Protesters went to MONUSCO HQ demanding action against the M23 rebels who are threatening Goma, just 100 kilometers away.
We, the civil society organizations, can no longer understand or accept that with 17,000 blue helmets, the UN cannot support the government forces against the aggression of Rwanda.
Government forces have so far proved incapable of repelling the insurgents. It's got local residents worried.
If they are so useless, they should admit their incompetence, pack their bags and go home.
This week, UN forces with helicopters started firing on the rebels in support of reinforcements brought in by the Kinshasa government. Up to now, they've been protecting civilians only. M23 comprises soldiers previously in the government army but who deserted 3 months ago. In the past few days, they withdrew into the hills after pulling out of Rutshuru, which they'd captured earlier. The M23 men are displaying a new political dimension to their fight. They say their target is the Kinshasa government.
The problems facing this country are the lack of democracy and the lack of regard for human rights. You know what happens to journalists here. Some have been killed and others put in prison.
Analysts say UN commanders now seem determined to back the government and stop the rebels advancing any further.
Reports coming out of Nigeria speak of a horrific accident involving a huge fuel tanker in the southern part of the country. Official reports put the death toll at 100 people. The Togolese Prime Minister has announced his decision to step down after 4 years in power. The Prime Minister's resignation comes amidst mounting street protests by opposition groups. And the newly elected President of Egypt, Mohamed Morsi, is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for his first official state visit. We have more on those stories and others in this roundup of report.
100 people in southern Nigeria burned to death when a tanker truck carrying fuel crashed. The truck did not immediately burst into flames, so nearby villagers rushed to the scene to collect fuel. But the tanker then exploded. Authorities say they expect the death toll to rise. Togo's Prime Minister Gilbert Fuson-Hungbo has stepped down. He was government leader since 2008. No reasons have been given for the surprise decision, but his resignation comes as the Save Togo collective successfully organized several protest marches. The collective, made up of political parties and civil society associations, is demanding clean and fair elections and the creation of a National Commission on Human Rights. Egypt's newly elected Islamist president chose Saudi Arabia as the destination for his first official visit. Mohamed Morsi met with King Abdallah in what they called productive talks. Relations between the two countries have been cold for a year and a half. The Saudis were allies of Hosni Mubarak and hostile to the Egyptian revolution. Riyadh's relations have always been rocky with Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood group. These Libyan reporters are demonstrating to demand the release of two of their Misrata television colleagues. The two were taken prisoner in the pro-Gaddafi stronghold of Bani Walid. The armed militia of Misrata are threatening to attack Bani Walid if the reporters are not released. Fighters from Misrata took part in last year's lost battle for the town of Bani Walid.
Defense is in the northern city of Bouake ahead of a massive demobilization of former NRE force combatants. Many of these combatants who fought in Ivory Coast's long civil war are finding it difficult to reintegrate into society. Defense Minister Paul Kofi Kofi says the Ivorian government wants to know the status of all former combatants a year after the end of hostilities.
In Côte d'Ivoire, the defense minister has decided to launch a census on former fighters here in Bouake, which was the former rebellion's stronghold. The aim is to prepare their reinsertion.
We're in 2012. The crisis has been over since 2011. What's happened to the people? Where are they? We need to know. We've had problems before. We need to reinsert them.
Former fighters can be seen here heading to the ceremony. They want their voices to be heard.
We're waiting for something to be done for us, be it work, money, or whatever.
Ahmed Traoré is a former fighter and people used to call him General. He spent 10 years fighting under the flag for the Force Nouvelle, but today he feels abandoned.
You have someone who was once like this, who finds himself like me, without a voice, without anything. It's regrettable.
Today, Ahmed Traoré has barely enough to survive on a daily basis. He does what he can with his makeshift bookstore. He no longer believes promises. For the past 10 years, identification, demobilization and reinsertion operations keep coming and going without much success.
It's all very well to send people to carry out a census, but it's more important that we urgently be given good trousers to replace the ripped ones. I'm telling the minister as a citizen. If he's here today, it's because we sacrificed our lives.
A number of former fighters still have their weapons, posing a potential threat to their necessary reinsertion.
From the report, we head straight to sports. The recent trial of England centre-back John Terry is finally drawn to a close. Chelsea Football Club captain is accused of racially abusing an opponent during a match last year. It is a charge he denies. The verdict is expected to be handed down at 2 p.m. on Friday. CNN's Matthew Chance is following proceedings at London Westminster Magistrate Courts.
Within the past few minutes has adjourned the court here at Westminster in central London, saying that he'll have his verdict ready tomorrow afternoon, so Friday at about 2 p.m. Local time, 13 hours or so from now. For the rest of the afternoon, the court's been adjourned while he considers his judgment. But all throughout the course of this morning, the defence and the prosecution have been summing up their final arguments. The prosecution making the point, they say, that John Terry is guilty of straightforward racial abuse with those sexual swear words coupled with the word black that he admitted uttering on a pitch last year during a football match between Chelsea and Queen's Park Rangers of the Premiership side. Of course, the words came within the context of a sort of barrage of abuse that was flowing between John Terry and his opposing player Anton Ferdinand, but the prosecution made the point that the context doesn't matter. It's whether the phrase was meant as abusive, as they say it is, or whether it was meant as repetitive, as John Terry claims that it was. The defence, in their summing up, said that the prosecution case entirely depends on speculation. Only Terry knows what he heard or what he thought he heard, because there's no video evidence of what Anton Ferdinand had to say. It also spoke about the evidence given by another Premiership footballer yesterday, Ashley Cole, saying that he saw or thought he believed he saw